She's coming back up to the house. She said she's going to drive Is that the water? You better take that for it. Not water. Did you?
You stay here, Mitchell. Here we go.
It's almost like daytime that when it comes out.
Yeah, when it comes out, yeah. Thanks, mate.
Ambassador to Australia, Mr. Alistair Cox. Deputy Head of Mission, New Zealand Embassy, Mr. Alistair Crozier. Veterans, ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered here this morning to mourn and pay tribute to those Australians and New Zealanders who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our nations. We also remember those who have suffered privation and injury in war. While we honour the deeds and sacrifices of the past, our thoughts also go out to those men and women of our armed services who are today in harm's way in operations in Afghanistan and elsewhere. It's particularly appropriate today that we're able to commemorate this dawn service in this plantation, where on the 18th of August 1966, Australians, New Zealanders and Vietnamese fought the now famous Battle of Long Tan. We thank the Vietnamese people for allowing us to hold this service at Long Tan. In particular, the Ba Ria Vung Tau District People's Committee and the owners of the plantation. I'll now invite the New Zealand Deputy Head of Mission, Mr. Alistair Crozier, to read the requiem.
On this day, above all days, we remember those Australian and New Zealand men and women who died or suffered in the great tragedy of war. On the morning of April 25th, 1915, Australian and New Zealand troops landed under fire at Gallipoli, and it was then and in the violent campaign which followed that the Anzac tradition was forged. The elements of that tradition have inspired and offered an enduring example to later generations of Australians and New Zealanders. Each year we pay homage not only to those original Anzacs, but to all who died or were disabled in service for their countries. They enrich our history. Their hope was for the freedom of mankind, and we remember with pride their courage, their compassion, and their comradeship. They served on land and sea and in the air, in many places throughout the world. Not only do we honour the memory of those Australians and New Zealanders who have fallen in battle, we share the sorrow of those who have mourned them and of all who have been the victims of armed conflict. On this day, we remember with sympathy those Australians and New Zealanders who have suffered as prisoners of war, and those who, because of war, have had their lives shortened or handicapped. We recall staunch friends and allies, and especially those of the first Anzac Day. May we and our successors prove worthy of their sacrifice.
The Australian Ambassador, Mr. Alistair Cox, will now give the address.
Veterans and families, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On Anzac Day, we commemorate the service, bravery and loss of the many thousands of Australians and New Zealanders who have, since the founding of our nations, given their lives in times of war and in the effort to keep the peace. From the beaches at Gallipoli to the fields of northern France, from Tobruk to Kokoda, and in Korea and Vietnam, and in recent times in theatres like East Timor, Iraq and Afghanistan, we have served to defend and promote the institutions and values which are the foundations of our societies. Rule of law, democracy, the freedom of the individual. For many, indeed the majority of our Anzac men and women serving in their late teens and early 20s, these are the formative experiences of their lives. Life and death experiences which have had profound impact on their outlooks, relationships, personal values and priorities. So our first duty today is to remember them, to remember those who knew them or personally were involved with them, their family or their close friends, and also to remember the many others like them, and to recall how war and conflict are unlike any other experience we have to face as human beings. Those who endure such experience, who serve on our behalf, deserve our sincere thanks. And in this place, at Long Tan, in Vietnam, we remember in particular the nearly 60,000 Australians and 4,000 New Zealanders who served in this land between 1962 and 1972. It is 50 years this year, in July, since the first Australians, the Australian Army Training Team, a team of instructors, departed for Vietnam. Over the intervening years, as Anzac participation in the conflict grew, our soldiers, sailors and air crews served in many places, from Bien Hoa to Nui Dat to Phan Rang to Da Nang and many other places in this land. This was a difficult guerrilla conflict, usually marked by long and difficult patrols and punctuated by sudden and sharp firefights and pitched battles, like the one we commemorate here today in this place on the 18th of August 1966. In this conflict, the Anzac forces are remembered by all for their professionalism, training and discipline. But there is no doubt that the particular nature of the war in this place took a severe mental and physical toll on those who took part. We remember in particular the 521 Australians and 37 New Zealanders killed, and the thousands of wounded and other veterans, some of whom are with us at this ceremony today. And we remember too the loved ones and families at home affected by the conflict. We also recognise that the war in Vietnam was difficult, not only physically and mentally, but that after it was over, many veterans have struggled long and hard for proper recognition and understanding of their service and legacy, because this service and that legacy are the equal of all the others we remember today. Ladies and gentlemen, like us, the Vietnamese are proud of their achievements and proud of their struggle for independence and unity. On this day, we also recall the many thousands of Vietnamese who gave up their lives for this goal. Vietnam today is a dynamic, energetic and young country looking to the future. It is a future in which Australia and Australians are seen as valued and important friends and partners in many fields, from education and trade, investment, infrastructure and coping with floods and storms. It is a future where many Australians are seen personally as friends, including here in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu province, where groups of Australian veterans and non-veterans have helped build schools schools and community facilities and help the less fortunate members of the local community. Today I would like to thank those groups and individuals, including those who help maintain this site. Through that work, you keep alive the best part of the Anzac spirit, the spirit of reaching out, building bridges with the local community, and the determination to succeed in the most practical way possible. This modern commitment and the legacy of service and sacrifice we commemorate here are the sinews in the relationships that that bind the peoples of Vietnam, Australia and New Zealand as we all strive for a better, more prosperous and secure future. Thank you.
We will now have the laying of the official wreaths. His Excellency Mr. Alistair Cox will lay a wreath on behalf of the Australian Government. The New Zealand Deputy Head of Mission, Mr. Alistair Crozier, will lay a wreath on behalf of the New Zealand Government.
The blue hats before.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now play the last post, followed by 1 minute silence, reveille, and then the national anthems. It is customary for those not in uniform to remove their hats for the last post.
We are young and free. Our home is goodbye sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's pages, as our strength in joyful strains, then let us sing at Lamb's Australia fair. Nation at thy feet, in the bonds of love we meet. Hear our voices, we entreat. God defend our free land. God Pacific's triple star, from the shafts of strife and war. Make our praises heard afar. God defend New Zealand.
Ladies and gentlemen, no Anzac Day service will be complete without the ode. Felicity Sims, the Australian Consul from Ho Chi Minh City, will now read the ode.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's dawn service. Those of you who wish to lay floral tributes may now do so. We would ask that you please remove any plastic from floral tributes. We have a very dedicated band of veterans and expatriates who maintain this cross throughout the year. Please make their job easier and take any rubbish with you. Traditional gunfire breakfasts will be held at various establishments in Vung Tau. Thank you for your attendance today.
Yeah, just take one anyway. You're in great demand.
Why me? Actually, put them in.
Play them yourself.
I'll get your number.